guys, I'm Brittany here, the Director of Operations for Refuge Medical, and this is my friend Jackie, and she is an RN. We actually took the Essential Responders course together, but it was Jackie's second time going through it, which, I mean, she's a badass altogether. So she did awesome, and she was so much wealth of knowledge during that training that I wanted to bring her in to go through the field medic with her. So we're gonna take this pocket by pocket. We're gonna start with this top pocket up here because this bag is full of so much medical supplies.
Goodies.
So this pocket's got our gauze, our ACE bandages, our emergency survival blankets, it's got S-Mark, and oof, it's got these decompression needles. And why don't you tell us why we shouldn't use these if we don't know what we're doing?
Well, it's not protected under the Good Samaritan law. You should not make new holes unless you are trained to do so and have the proper credentials to do it.
And do you have the proper credentials to do it?
I do not, and I am a bachelor RN, and I do not have the proper credentials to do that. So make sure if you're going to do that, you hand it to somebody that can do that.
Yep.
Or the law will not protect you.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that you are protected, especially because we're trying to save lives. We're not trying to, you know, cause more damage here, because this creates a new hole, and that is not covered under the Good Samaritan. So there's gloves in here. I'm sure that's something you use probably every day.
Every day, multiple times.
Out in the field. Compressed gauze, survival blankets. I remember we had a guy who came into the, was wrecked out right behind the office. We brought him in, and the first thing we did was get him warm because it was so cold outside.
And I tell you, Dylan, with some of the stuff I dealt with when I was in my community positions, having one of those would have been great, especially with the elderly and their body temperature dropping, and you know, they're hard to maintain. So that would have been wonderful.
Yeah. What are some other things in here that you would use on a day-to-day basis?
Well, the gauze, a lot of that, you've got some of it's wound care, like in the community, a lot of the reasons why we were called out was specifically for wound care. You don't have a supply cabinet, and sometimes supplies are not in the home for whatever reason. So, you know, it's great to have this stuff. This tape is awesome. It's one of my favorite kind of tapes. You can manipulate it and use it and whatever, and it doesn't rip a ton of hair off.
Yeah, and it also has that surgical, that like cloth tape too, which is great.
Which is good for like if you have somebody that has lines already in place in the field for regular nursing. Emergency, of course, it could also help with chest seals, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then we got our exam pen light, which I'm sure you've used multiple times, you know, pupil dilation and all those kinds of things.
And it's in the front pocket, so it's easy accessible.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know if you guys can see that, these little pockets, they're like sitting in there all set and ready. The gloves fell out, but the gloves are over here. There's 2 sets of them down there. This thing is packed full, and this is just one pocket. So we'll go into the next pocket. So now we're gonna go into this bottom front pocket, and what I really like about this pocket is the organization. Look at that. Like, you have your SAM splint right there, which is great for multiple things. And you can even cut it. Like, it's moldable.
Yep, and see, and it's moldable, it supports, so it can use any limb that you need to support. So that's great.
Awesome. And then these 2 pockets are super cool. I love how organized this bag is. But you have Benadryl and anti-diarrhea, as well as OTC meds, and hit on those.
If you know the people and you kind of know their history, like if you're working in the community or it's your job to do, then these might be okay to do as long as they're not contraindicated with anything else they're taking. If it's somebody you don't know, I wouldn't recommend giving it just because you don't know what will happen. You don't know what their medical history is, and you don't know what they're on. So just be cautious with using OTCs or any of those.
Yeah. Allergies are a thing, and you don't know their allergies.
That is correct.
Especially like every day, people take medications and they can react differently with different things. So like, you don't know that, just play it on the safe side, don't give it to them.
Correct.
You got more gloves in here. We got Band-Aids, we have glucose gel, and oral rehydration salts.
Yes.
Have you used those in the field?
And I like to use those because, remember, if you poke a hole, you're not covered under Good Samaritan. And if they could drink, now, if they look like they have a head injury or look like they're having difficulty neurologically, having difficulty speaking, not staying aroused or falling asleep on you, I wouldn't recommend giving them anything. If you really think they're in trouble, you can put some in their mouth without water to keep them from aspirating, but if you dump water in somebody that's not alert, they could aspirate and you can compromise the situation more. But I love using those. It's better than an IV, and you bounce back pretty quick if you're dehydrated. So, and we're in 100-degree temperature, so heat injury is highly
If you can't
possible.
tell the sweat that's on us just from, it's, you know, early in the morning. We tried to film this early and we're still sweat. It's hot in the summer.
Correct.
You have steri strips and Band-Aids, which I use those daily in my mom life, so I can't imagine using them in the actual nurse field life.
And steri strips are a lot safer too, because if you're trying to steri strip or stitch, stitching is creating a new hole and might not be protected. And if you're not licensed, I'm a bachelor RN and I am not authorized to stitch. I've not necessarily been trained in it. So for me being under my license, I cannot do that. So if you're a licensed professional, don't think you can just stitch.
Yep. So there
Unless you've been trained.
Yeah. Training is key with all medical supplies.
Everything.
We hit on that all the time. This front pocket, if you can see.
Oh, so back to that, steri strips will help close a wound, so that is better than stitching.
Yep, so on the stitching note, this is the 72-piece surgical set, as well as the straps container. We're hitting back on that point that we made with the decompression needle. If you don't know how to stitch, don't do it.
Don't use the surgical tools unless you know what you're doing. You will not be protected under the Good Samaritan law if you create a new hole. Remember that.
We have had people on their homestead. We had one person stitch up a chicken with their surgical set, and we've had little things like that. Just know that you're not covered if you do it to somebody out there, a stranger, you're rolling up on an accident. Like, know your rights, and we just don't want you guys to get in trouble. We want you to have the training and the tools that are needed, but we don't want to put you in a situation that you're in deeper trouble. So just keep that in mind when you're out into the field and when you're using all this awesome medical supplies.
And if you're licensed, make sure you follow your licensure board. You know what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, because you are definitely held to a higher standard once you have that license.
Even under Good Samaritan law, your license trumps that, so you should know.
Yep. So we're gonna go into the main pocket in a minute, but I wanna show you guys some quick deploy items that we have on the outside. We have shears, there is a Sharpie, and you know the Sharpie's good for things like tourniquets. Why do we have a Sharpie with our tourniquet?
Because you need to write the time that it was placed so we know how long it's been there. That is very important. Anything that you do in a situation that you're using this stuff, you should be timing and dating everything. Whether you put a piece of tape on your leg and start writing, write it on your arm, write it on the tourniquet so that you can pass off to a higher level of care.
It just makes their job so much easier when they can show up and you can hand them all this information
and
too.
It saves the patient or the person. Like if you don't have all the information, then you didn't necessarily buy time because you didn't deliver that over. So you've got to ensure that you keep up with what you're doing, what happened, if you saw them go down, when they went down. You start timing everything as soon as you hit the scene.
Yep. So this is a full BearMIN blowout. It's the BearMIN inner, everything in it. It's got your hemostatic, it's got your tourniquet, and you'll notice that all these items are still in their packaging. We ship them brand new in their packaging, so when you receive kits, you need to stage your items and have them ready for the field.
And you
don't walk around, don't walk around with them still in the packaging because seconds matter.
Yep.
And that's the last thing you want to do.
Acclimated to your bag and what's going on.
You want to know where everything is. So let's hit on these items. So this is part of our basic vitals set, and I know you take vitals out in the field all the time.
Yes, this is important. This should be your number one thing. After you determine the scene is safe, you should be assessing vital signs. This will tell you everything. You check their breathing, you check their heart rate, you check their blood pressure, you check their alertness, check their orientation. If you have to start CPR, you use this. This is a neat little kit. It comes free with their CPR class, and let me tell you, it's got this neat little...
You can open it, you're good.
Okay. And I don't know if this is a big deal to y'all, but it is to me, because when you're out in the field and you have a bag or you're limited, man, you only have 2 hands and when you need 10. So this can attach to the outside so you can rip and go. That's another thing I like about these bags. You see all this? You can customize it to what you want it to be. You can add new Mylar bags, you can add extra stuff on here. You can put this up here so you can pop and go. You know, this is important so nobody vomits inside your mouth. You don't get their cooties, they don't get your cooties.
It's got that good one-way valve.
But it has this, I think, I know this
that little wristlet. My wallet has a wristlet on it because my life needs wristlets.
That's right, that's right, that's right. So these are very important. Again, time, date, know what you're doing, be trained. They have awesome training.
Oh yeah. Okay, so other items in this pocket, you have 2 ETDs. You have the Blast, which is a larger abdominal one, as well as you have the Oleus. And I don't know if you ever opened up one of these, but it's got like the shield cup in there. It's got extra wound packing gauze. That's like a extreme advanced ETD, and it is super cool. We have items in here. So this is, I know you said you use this in the field all the time. It's got iodine, alcohol, and then eye wash. And we put it in this bag so that just in case it happens to leak in transit or in your life, it doesn't, you know, get on everything else. Because these items, like if you're using them, you probably have a second to open the bag, you know? But yeah, iodine, I know you were saying you put on a lot of things out there.
Yep.
Definitely a needed thing.
Good antiseptic.
We have a full trauma pack in here, so that's a really cool, like another one of those you can grab and go items. OTC wipes, we were just hitting on those, quite a few different. It's got burn gel, BZK, alcohol, more iodine wipes. That's a good little set. Cold packs. I'm sure you've used those quite a bit in the field for sure. Oh, hit on that guy.
So this right here, this is for your mouth. It's a suction, so if they vomit, make sure you know what you're doing with this. Don't suck stuff in the bulb and then squirt it back in their mouth. You might make them aspirate. Just know what you're doing. Don't shove this in here. If they look like they have any kind of mouth trauma, you might cause more trauma, and try not to shove it down their throat. I don't think it'll reach. So I don't think it go as far as the, what is it, the OG2?
Yeah.
I don't think it'll go down that far, but just know what you're doing with this. But this is a great thing. Flip them on their side, start pulling that vomit out of their mouth so they don't aspirate.
And I think it actually has like a bag that it goes into.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, see, good. There might be a valve in that too, I bet.
Yeah, I bet there is a valve so that it only goes in and not comes back out. So
good, yes.
Still know what you're doing.
Know what you're doing. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. We have more gauze. Oh, and here's our chest seals and burn gel, and oh, here's a naso. I know you have a great story about a naso.
Yes, I actually got one put in me for my first ER training, and it was done by my husband. He done an excellent job.
How did it feel?
Very uncomfortable, but yeah, I survived it and didn't die, so we're good.
Yeah, and that wasn't that you needed it. It was for training purposes.
It was literally for training, but having something shoved down your nose is not necessarily a comfortable thing, especially when you're fully alert and awake. So yeah, definitely one of those things. And then there's gauze pack and eye shields and eye pads in here. Yep. And I mean, you could never have enough gauze. I'm sure you blow through it all the time. Gauze is amazing.
Your restock, I'm sure, on gauze every time you go in and out of the field is just like
stays in your pocket.
Yep.
Gloves, gauze.
I don't even think I can repack this thing and make it look as pretty as our team did.
Oh, another thing with this, another good thing to remember is if there's multiple, toss it to somebody, and then you have this bag that has everything that this has in it too. So there you go. You can work on multiple people if you have people.
Yeah, so this is a great item that you should, if you have training, you know how to use most of the things, but it's also a good thing to prep and kind of have for when higher level of care isn't around anymore, because
absolutely,
like, unfortunately, one day it might not be available, or you might be, we just had Life Save number 86 come in yesterday, and they were an hour away from the hospital, and luckily they were able to save her life. She had lacerations on both legs from a tractor, and they were able to wound pack and apply tourniquets, and were able to buy her time until they were able to get her to a higher level of care.
Time stamp with an hour transport to higher level care. That's the importance of making sure you note what you're doing at the scene. That's the reason why the marker's here. It can mark on anything. Whether you marking on their pants, you're cutting off. Mark on something so you have a timeline.
Yeah, so this is not gonna look as pretty as our team did. When you guys get it, this thing is gonna look as pretty as it's ever going to look. You can pull it apart, get familiar with it, get to know every item in there. Pack it maybe differently. Pack it on how you would use it, because everybody's a little different. Just get to know your kit, and what we've hit it on it a million times already, but get training.
Absolutely. Train. I, again, have been in the medical field for over 20 years, and I have been through crash course training this year, multiple trainings. You never stop learning, and everything changes. Another thing about this is if you're out rucking, look, you can put a camel pack
Yeah.
So you can have water so you don't become a casualty.
Yep, and then we didn't hit on the back of this bag, but it's got some awesome padding and awesome buckles. This is actually a bag made from Squatch Survival, made in the USA, very compliant, comes in multiple different colors. So it's got all the options out there, and I'm gonna give you guys a little sneak peek. Keep an eye at Refuge Training, because they have some awesome new trainings coming out, and you're gonna wanna see it, especially when it comes to our kits in this bag. I know I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited too.
I'm gonna go do it.
Oh, I know, and I mean, not all of them are gonna be in person, so that's a little sneak peek for you guys, but thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yes.
And thank you for coming to see and do, and I did training with this girl, so like, we're
awesome.
We're friends, like we're buddies.
She just had a baby and survived the training. You know, she gets props.
Yeah,
man.
I was 6 weeks postpartum with number 4 when I did our full essential responder training, and man, I loved it. I would totally do it again. I see why you've already done it twice, because it's one of those things, and I know you said it, you've learned something different each time.
Absolutely.
Like
and
it changes. They just changed the curriculum, they've updated it, they're always, you know, updating things, because things in the medical field are continuously upgrading, and data and always new information.
Research is always going on. And I tell you what, I'm pretty an athletic person, and these training doesn't have anything on anybody that does Olympic lifting, CrossFitting. It is amazing. Spartan races.
But don't be scared, because anybody can do it.
Absolutely, anybody can do it. But if you're a go-getter and you like a challenge, come on. And if you're a licensed professional, I promise you haven't had any training like this.
Yeah. So thank you so much, and yeah, check out the Field Medic.
It's awesome.
Thanks so much for checking out our content. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, share, subscribe to all of our channels. We post videos so many times a week, and thank you so much, Jackie, for coming in here. She is awesome, and
thank you.
You know, you're what, an RN and?
Ex-military too, so like even the training tops most military training. Granted, I'm not like SEAL or anything, but
still, like, you're a pretty cool woman, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, and make sure you check out refugemedical.com as well as Refuge Training for all of the details for everything that we talked about in this video. Have a great day.
Shalom.